Travis Wayne Goodsell. What did I tell you? I did that other video, and I look at the comments, and yeah, Mormons are there being mean and abusive. It's just unbelievable. They just cannot get to the truth using their feelings rather than the scientific processes and sound arguments that are necessary in establishing truth. Mormons have all been deceived, both those that have left the church as well as those that are still in it. But the ones that are still in it are the ones that are the abusive ones towards me, as they feel I've betrayed them. And so what then is the symbol of Mormonism if Mormonism believes that they are the only true church on the face of the earth? What is the symbol for which all people of the world can look to them and go, oh, that's their symbol? Okay. See, Jews, they have the Star of David. This is the shield of David. This is not the Jewish symbol. It's the star within the shield. The shield of David has to do with some other symbol, and I've gone over that. But for the Jews, it's the Star of David. Why? Because King David was the first king that they acknowledge for their kingdom. And so Christians, what is the Christian symbol? Well, that's an easy one. That's the cross, right? The cross of Christ, where he was crucified. And so Muslims even have their symbol. It's the Crescent. It's very similar in shape to communism. Communism differs in that it's a sickle with the hammer through it. And China, therefore, uses a variation of that as well. And so everybody has a symbol to identify themselves with. If you're a part of a family, which everybody is, you go back far enough, you have a coat of arms. If you're from Europe, and that's the symbols of your family. And so again, what is the symbol of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Because as we were born and raised, Christians would ask us, well, if you're a Christian church, why don't you have the symbol of the cross? And we always are told to make up the excuse of, oh, well, we don't like to think of the death of Christ. We think of him as the resurrected Christ. And no, the ascended Christ. So we're even misinformed on that. Nelson, if you saw last conference, finally came out with a symbol to replace the previous symbol that still exists to this day. And so what is that symbol? The statue, the idol god that is said to represent Jesus. But it is placed on top of what Nelson called the foundation stone, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He placed the church as the foundation stone and built the statue god of Christ on top of it. And then had the arch, claiming it was the tomb from which he was resurrected, not ascended. And so I've gone over why that is a problem. And yet you might think it's debatable, I guess, as to whether the original one is worse than what Nelson brought out in conference. Because what is the symbol of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? They are telling us the temple is the symbol of the church, because the temple recommend is the symbol of our membership. So what is the symbol of the temple? And you've got to go to either the Nauvoo temple, which was the first temple after Joseph Smith was assassinated, or to the intended first temple, which was going to be the Salt Lake temple. But the United States government, caused some problems, as the Mormons call it. And so, what is the symbol? The introduction to the Book of Mormon talks about the Book of Mormon being the keystone of the religion. Now, keystone literally is the brick at the top of an arch that holds the arch up. It keeps it up. In the figurative sense, or the symbolic sense, it is the doctrinal precepts upon which an organization is founded. And so it is the keystone of the Salt Lake Temple that we need to look to find out the symbol of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I've gone over this all so many times, and yet I still have to keep going over it in hopes that the new title will attract different people. Everybody who is married in the Salt Lake Temple, as I was with my second marriage, we get our photos taken at the door of the Salt Lake Temple. That's the huge door, towering door. And so it may be kind of difficult to see what the keystone is, especially now that everybody's back out on the streets polluting the air with their vehicles. It was so nice being able to clearly see the mountains, no pollution, and now it's back. Unbelievable. And so all the pollutant allergies that I have are coming back. Very annoying, very saddening, very frustrating. But yeah, I've seen online temple missionaries who, as the mission group gets their pictures taken at those doors, and other couples get married, the photographers focus on the individual, and they don't focus on the whole background. It's a photography thing. My photographer was our Relief Society president, and she knew how to take a photograph. She did very well, especially the one black and white one she did. That was wow. But yeah, she captured the whole door with the keystone. There's a reason why they put it up so high, and there's a reason why mankind typically does not look up. My physics professor in high school purposely placed an object on the upper beam in the hallway outside of the physics door, and as his classes would come in, he'd ask them, what did I put in the upper beam outside the classroom? And all the students are like, because we all look down. We don't look up. Some of us will look ahead, but we don't look up in the sky when we're walking. We can tend to lose our balance. And so, yeah, it is a secret sign, but it is the sign of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints of Brigham Young, not Joseph Smith, because it was first used by Brigham Young on the Nauvoo Temple. His brother-in-law was the architect for the Nauvoo Temple, and then he also designed the Salt Lake Temple as well. And it was Brigham Young's grandson who designed the Seagull Gate that also has that same symbol on that keystone as the foundation of the keystone. Because there's the foundation, then there's the beehive, then there's the seagull. And I've gone over that video and the symbolism of what that means. And let's just say that the Nephites do not represent the seagull. They represent the beehive. So if the Nephites represent the beehive, then the Lamanites represent the seagull. And then we have the foundation stone, which is the keystone symbol on the temple. And as the Seagull Gate is pointing directly at the state capitol building, just like the streets in Washington, D.C. are pointing directly at the White House, that too is the exact same symbol. Interesting, I saw Ari's show replacing Chris Hayes, where they showed Black Lives protesters who had the Confederate flag tape over their mouths. And I looked at it, I went, oh, those clever girls. Because it was a girl who was wearing the Confederate tape over her mouth. She had turned it upside down. So the stars were not pentagrams. They were Lucifer stars. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? That is the symbol of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The day star. Not the morning star in Revelation. That's the sun in the morning. And so, yeah, it's horrifying, it's shocking to find out the sign symbol for Mormonism. To having been born and raised in a church 50 years, going into translation, ancient translation, and deciphering Paleo-Hebrew, deciphering Egyptian petroglyphs, making the connection to the biblical stories to the Egyptian petroglyphs, that I can confirm Joseph's Hebrew translation in the King Follett sermon and his translation of the Book of Abraham, which he did not finish. He was not translating the text. He was translating the petroglyphs, the facsimiles. And so, yeah, I know Joseph Smith is a translator. I'm better than he is, because I know his mistakes. And I've done further work with being a decipherer, whereas he had Jewish mysticism and the Egyptian news reports from Europe about Jean Champollion translating or deciphering the Rosetta Stone. But it just, how do you get through to Mormons the symbol of the church so that they will know for themselves that this ain't the right church? Because our God is not Jesus. It's a wolf in sheep's clothing. or it's a Lucifer in Jesus's clothing. And that's kind of sick and twisted, because Hannibal Lecter would do stuff like that, wear people's skin. So, what do you say beyond that to convince Mormons this isn't the church we were told it is? And when you realize that, then you have to say, well, what was Joseph's church then? Is it the same church as Joseph's? It's just with a different God? No. Joseph was completely different in administration, theology, doctrine, scripture, all different. He was going in a completely different path than what we took with Brigham Young. And how do I get that through to you? Because I can't get it through to the Mormons who work at YouTube, who are purposely delaying the production of my video, or the processing of my videos, who are purposely finding all sorts of ways to shadow ban me and censor me and keep me from you. The fact that you came to my video, wow, they slipped up because you figured out what to type in to find this video. And most likely you're not even listening now. So, what do I do? How do I convert the inconvertible? And we can say, oh, well, you don't convert people, Travis. You just present the message and people convert themselves. Yeah, well, if they don't want to be converted, you're supposed to leave them alone. But yeah, I'm not forcing anybody. All I'm doing is exercising my free speech to warn, to educate. And this is a safe space. It's supposed to be anyway. YouTube refuses to make it a safe space, as they attack me and allow others to attack me through their channel, their platform. That's what I'm having to deal with. But that's why this Black Lives protest is coming after the church. Little by little, they've recognized Brigham Young as a racist because the church says he was. Brigham Young took away the priesthood in 1852. No more priesthood, bye-bye. That's when he established polygamy. And so you'd think women would be a little more vocal. But the church went and excommunicated the leader of the ordained women movement. That's what bullies do. Oh, okay, you're standing up to us? Well, we're excommunicating you. But yeah, Brigham Young statue at BYU, red paint and racist. And then now today I heard about last night's news talking about Dixie, as Dixie is now under pressure to change the name of everything Dixie down there. And my aunt also is probably trying to keep her name secret, as she's now telling people that her name is just Mrs. Burt. So, yeah, I have a cousin, I'm assuming she's still alive, whose name was Juanita. That was her birth name. But then she left home and went on with her life, and then found out that her name means female dog in Spanish, or Mexican, I guess Spanish, because it's the same language, isn't it? There's probably accent differences and vowel adjustments, but And so she legally had her name changed, and I have no idea what it is. She's always Juanita to me. I don't consider it an insult to her. But when you call women the female dog, that's the slur. And so, yeah, the Redskins thing, I'm not seeing how that's an insult. For blacks, yes, because the phonetics of the Latin has been altered specifically to be insulting and slurring. But supposedly I'm a white cracker. I'm supposed to be offended by that? Okay, white flour used to make white crackers. Okay, I am white. I mean, I've even asked on government forums, am I white? And I check yes, even though I've got a mix of some other stuff, I'm technically white. And sometimes forms will say Caucasian, but a lot of the times it's white. And so I'm a white man. And so the whole thing is just getting out of control as people are getting offended that people don't understand the whole background of their culture and their religion. And there's just no way to know everybody's culture, everybody's history, everybody's background. It's just impossible. It can't be done. What's needed is everybody writes a reference book about your culture and your experiences and your background and your history, so that when you interact with somebody, you can refer them to the reference if there's going to be negotiations and whatever between two groups or two individuals. Because to be offended because somebody doesn't know, LGBT, they used to be called gay. Gay used to be happy. Supposedly gay is a slur, but those who were gay embraced it, owned it, and thus turned it back on those who were calling it a slur. And so every teenage generation tries to create new definitions so that they can't be understood by their parents. And that carries over into leaving the home. And the parents, they never catch on to the language. But for the children to be offended with their parents for not catching on to the language, that's not cool. And I'm not referring to the temperature as it used to be called, defined. It's now a popularity ranking. And so, yeah, we're really screwing up our language and messing up the communication as we're all being deceived. And the symbols are a big part of that. Each organization needs a symbol to be recognized by. And during World War II, the symbol of Jews was slurred, as Hitler used it for identification in the camps. And then there's no way I can ever comprehend the horror that the Jews went through. I can cry over Schindler's List, but even Steven Spielberg can't fully portray what really went on there. Nobody can ever know but those who went through it. The best we can hope for is that survivors lived to tell the tale and that it got recorded. That's the closest we can come to understanding. And it's the same for any group, an organization that is persecuted. And Mormons don't get to claim persecution. They caused the fights. They caused the wars. Brigham Young caused the deaths of the pioneers because they were the poor who couldn't go during the summertime because they weren't rich. And so when they finally got the money collected, it was wintertime. And the Danites of Brigham Young had already caused severe damage that the poor could no longer live among the residents. They were no longer welcome because of the damage caused by the Danites of Brigham Young. And so, yeah, it's all on Brigham Young. And notice he sends back the boys to go rescue them rather than going himself as the leader of the organization. Oh, he stopped conference all right, but did he go? Nope. Send the boys. You never leave a man behind. And Brigham Young left the poor behind. Because his symbol is one of hate.